You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Over the past few months, we've been checking in with the Winnipeg Youth Orchestras and keeping tabs on how they've continued to inspire the next generation of orchestral music makers. Now, their latest release, Summer Walker Dances by composer Stephanie Ann Boyd, coincided with the warmer weather arriving back to Winnipeg. And to tell us more about it is Winnipeg Youth Strings conductor Keith Dyrda. Hey, Keith, welcome back to Classic 107.
Hi, Simon. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, just before we get to the performance, I want to start off by asking you about your relationship with Winnipeg Youth Orchestras. Though you're a relatively new addition to the conducting staff, as a born and raised Winnipegger, you and the youth orchestra go way back, don't you?
Way back, absolutely. Yeah, my main instrument now that I play in the Winnipeg Symphony is the trombone, but my first instrument was the violin, and so I've played violin my whole life since I was about 5 years old in the Suzuki program, growing up here in Winnipeg. But yeah, I joined the Winnipeg Youth Orchestra, the Youth Strings, the group that I conduct specifically, the youngest group that we have. I joined that group as like my first string ensemble ever, and it was yeah, a lot of my formative years spent in that group, and then up through the various orchestras in the youth orchestra program. I was in the program all the way through high school. So
I gotta ask, when you were sitting there as a young kid, did you ever see yourself on the other side, on the podium conducting? Was that part of your vision?
I don't think it was like, really on the forefront of my mind at that time. But and conducting in general wasn't really something that I had, a really like specific interest in, but I have really come to love it. And I like the feeling of the power from the podium. It's good.
Well, we've heard about the other two ensembles, the youth orchestra and concert orchestra, directed by Dan Schultz and Andrea Bell. Can you tell us a little bit more about the youth strings?
Absolutely. So the Youth Strings is our youngest group. Our age is about 7 or 8 years old to about 11 or 12. Both sides of the spectrum, we sort of fudge here and there, but that's generally the sort of age group. And it's just a string orchestra, so we don't have any winds or brass or percussion, really. Sometimes percussion is used if one of our players wants to double on something, but it's really just a string orchestra. And yeah, so we have many kids from all around the city and our communities who come to join us, and we meet once a week, rehearse once a week, and get to give a few performances throughout the year. And yeah, it's a really fantastic program, and it's really it's my second year here as a conductor with the Winnipeg Youth Orchestras, and I'm always amazed at the arc of the progress of the students from the beginning of the year to the end. Yeah, it's really incredible what we're able to achieve.
Well, I mean, you mentioned just how quickly kids advance, and I feel like working with 7-year-olds, people who are relatively new on their instruments, that learning curve is probably steep at the beginning, but then by the end, like you say, they're like sponges. They absorb so much. That must be so rewarding for you as a conductor.
Totally, absolutely, yeah. They pick things up really, really, really quickly, and in our group, usually we end up getting the kids who are really fired up about music anyway, who come out to audition for us, and that's what we're looking for, the kids who love it and want to do more and more. And that's really one of the prerequisites, one of the only prerequisites for our group. And so yeah, I always get everybody who's super fired up, and they just absorb everything, like you said, as a sponge. So
Yeah. So let's talk about this latest release, music of contemporary American composer Stephanie Ann Boyd. Tell us a little bit about the Summer Walker Dances.
absolutely. So this year, like the several of the past years, we have been able to collaborate with Sistema Winnipeg, and Sistema Winnipeg is another one of the truly fine musical educational institutions here in Winnipeg. And we can talk more about the partnership at large, if you like, that we get to have with Sistema Winnipeg. But this year, as part of our collaboration, we put together a performance video, edited all together from remotely recorded places, of this piece, Summer Walker Dances by Stephanie Ann Boyd. And this piece was sort of found by myself and Naomi Wu, who's the musical director of Sistema Winnipeg. We were talking about what piece we might like to choose for this this video, this collaboration that we were discussing, this project for this year. And Naomi had known of Stephanie, who's a New York City-based composer, and had worked with her in the past. And just through some research on her website, we found this piece written for double orchestra, which we thought, double string orchestra, which we thought would fit so well for our purposes. And we just loved the piece. So that's what we chose. And yeah, we were able to work with Stephanie online this year, and get to meet with her and discuss the piece and some of the inspirations that went into her composition. And so it was a really wonderful experience for everybody involved.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, obviously, when you're working with students and working in music, so often it is music of the past. You know, it's a Bach Badinerie, for example, as we had Andrea Bell talking a few months back. To have the composer there and to be able to chat with them, what was that like for the students to offer that input and to hear feedback?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was so exciting for myself included, to be able to talk with a composer like that. But I think we really did blow everybody's minds, just even putting like a face to the name that they see on the page written, and they go, right, this is a real person who lives a real life, and they chose to be a composer of music. What an idea. Yeah, we had a wonderful conversation with her and with Stephanie. And what we really loved about this piece, Summer Walker Dances, from the get-go was the sort of ideas of personal heritage that composers sometimes put into their music. And this piece in particular embraced Stephanie's heritage, with just sort of the melodic nature of the piece, and sort of the subject matter that she was inspired by. And as you say, putting sort of some of yourself into the music, and not just playing something that was written hundreds of years ago, but something that really speaks to you. Yeah, to be able to hear Stephanie talk about that on her own behalf it really it gave so much meaning to the piece for us all. And I think in the end really made it an enjoyable experience for us.
Well, Keith, I'm so glad to hear that. And I want to congratulate you on it, because it really is a super fine performance. And like you say, I mean, one of the neatest things, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff about this, but the fact that Stephanie Ann Boyd sets up the youth strings and Sistema and the youth concert orchestra for this performance, it's just so special for all involved. And again, congratulations on this one, because it's just a beautiful tune and it's so wonderfully performed. So congrats.
Well, thanks very much. Yeah, we're very lucky to be able to have this collaboration with Sistema Winnipeg, and we were very fortunate to receive some grant funding from the Winnipeg Foundation, which helps not just this project that we did this year, but the whole collaboration in general. They pay the tuition. This money pays the tuition for Winnipeg Sistema members to join the youth orchestra program, and we've just found it's a much richer experience for the youth orchestra kids and for the Sistema kids to sort of all get together and be able to work together. So we've been really, really lucky, that we've got that in place, and that we've got the support that we do to be able to make this happen.
Just before we hear the piece of music, I do want to ask you one more thing. If there's a younger student sitting at home listening to this right now, and they're kind of on the fence going like, okay, well, should I go and try and audition for the Winnipeg Youth Orchestras? Maybe the youth strings are for me. What would you say to them?
I would say absolutely. If you're on the fence, if I can give you that little nudge off the one side, come out and join us for an audition. Absolutely, anybody is welcome to show up and take an audition. And that in itself, just the experience of going to play in front of others is, I think, a really positive step in life in general, putting yourself out there. So even if it turned out to not be for you, just the aspect of getting out there to take the audition, I think is a really good move. So I would encourage anybody who's on the fence to come and join us.
And then maybe they'll end up on the podium like you did, leading youth strings in the future.
You never know. When I started in the youth orchestra, I didn't have grandiose plans by any stretch, but I just fell in love with playing music, and that's something that's been there my whole life. So you never know how things come around.
It's so true, isn't it? Keith, thanks for taking the time today. And here it is, Summer Walker Dances by Stephanie Ann Boyd.
Thanks, Simon.